Alright guys, since I'm gonna make the review extra credit, I'm just gonna do a playlist explaining each section just to help you. So, and just remember for you to receive extra credit, because will be providing a partial key and then a key to check your work. It has to be turned in um, by the submission date and time. So this one will be a little bit different because it's going to close. All right, so let's talk about section 1, or the first little area here, these first 4 problems. Now, we haven't really gone into depth about writing equations, but we have taken an equation to sketch it. So what I have here are just some things that you need to follow and use to help you get to that equation. But this one is just asking for the equation and determining the leading coefficient. So to write the equation, factor form is the easiest to me because we can look at our zeros and our multiplicity. If I look on number 1 here, I have a 0 at this -3, at this -1, and it looks like this is supposed to be 1. I know the 1 is off, but that's what they want us to use here. And then if I look at the multiplicity, at the -3, it's a bounce. So that means that it has to be an even exponent. And then if I look here, at the -1 and at a +1, it's a cross. So what I'm going to do, just starting off, I'm going to put it in factor form using the parentheses of the zeros, and then also add the exponent, the lowest exponent possible for that. So this would be, even though it's -3 in factor form, this would have to, you get to do the opposite. So this is x plus 3. It's a bounce, so we know that has to be even. So the lowest even is 2. And then we have x plus 1. It's for it to be a cross, it's an odd. I don't really have to put a 1 there for odd. And then x minus 1, sorry. All right, and then what they want us to do is determine the leading coefficient. So all I have to do that is look at your end behaviors. That's these arrows here. So because it's up, up, that would have to be a positive leading coefficient, okay? So if I was to write this equation here, determine the leading coefficient in this form, okay? I'm going to use this form that I have up here for y'all. I'm going to change my font, sorry. Yeah, so I would do A is positive, so I don't have to change the sign on that because it's up, up, and then I would have x plus 3, parentheses squared, because that was the bounce, and then x plus 1, and then x minus 1. And that's it. That's all I would need. Okay. So use these facts, or use what you know about the shape, the end behavior, and about your zeros or your x-intercepts, because that's where your 0 is, to write your equation. So kind of gave you the answer to 1 to help you get through number 2. Now, the only difference between 1 and 2 in regards with 3 and 4 is now this is write the equation of the polynomial graph shown with the lowest possible degree. So now they want the actual equation. So that means we need to know the A. So you're still going to follow your steps, meaning you're still going to look at your zeros. And if I look at my zeros here, I have a 0, at 1, and at 2, okay? And because all of these zeros are crossing, the multiplicity has to be an odd. So if I just start off with that information, let's do this. Using our form, which is the function of x, right? Our function of x is a parentheses, and then I have x minus 0, and then I have x minus 1, and x minus 2. Okay. So what we're going to do now is we're going to plug in the given point, which we have this point right here, and we know the x and the y to solve for the a. So what I'm going to do is your f of x is like your y. So I'm going to put a negative 12 equals the a. And then I'm going to plug in these numbers for x. So I have a negative 1 minus 0, then a negative 1 minus 1, and then a negative 1 minus 2. So now I'm just going to simplify this. Okay. So negative 12 equals a times, this will be negative 1. This is not going to be negative 2. This is now going to be a negative 3. So when I multiply these terms together, negative 1 times a negative 2 is going to give you positive 2, times a negative 3 gives you a negative 6. So really I have a negative 12, a times a negative 6, which is really kind of just switch that around, which is really negative 6a. Okay. I think some of you already saw that mentally. I don't need to show that next step. So negative 6a. And so we're solving for a. So we're just going to need to divide by that negative 6 to get that a. And here we see the a is going to be 2, right? I'm running out of room here. And so now all I have to do is plug this information back to our original equation. So I'm just going to write that in blue up here. So our f of x equals 2, then parentheses x minus 0. And I'm going to simplify this a little bit more because hopefully I think some of you saw this. Right here, if I do x minus 0, that's really just x, right? So what I have is 2x, parentheses x minus 1, x minus 2. Now, I'm not going to ask you to probably solve for a because we haven't really practiced that a lot. But I am going to ask you, can you give me the form, the factor form, and what the leading coefficient should look like? And we should know, based on what I see here, this is down, up, that our leading coefficient should be positive. Because if it's down, up, it's increasing. And then also, this is the shape of an odd exponent, a degree. And if I look here, I have 1, 2, 3 factors, which means it's going to be odd, okay? And then if I have 3 factors, then I should have 2 turning points, which I do. There's 1, there's 2. So it's all lining up, okay? So once you try number 4, using your zeros, which are the negative 1, the positive 1, and the 2, okay? And then use your this y-intercept as your other point. So like starting off, when you're plugging in, make sure my font's right. The f of x equals a, and then you can do x. Because this is a balance at x plus 1, this first one there, balance means it has to be at least even. And then we have an x minus 1 and an x minus 2. Oops. Okay. And so now you can plug in using this point, your y-intercept, which is 0, negative 3. So 0 is for your x, and negative 3 is for your y. So try to just work that out. Don't forget to follow PEMDAS when you're solving for your a. But, you know, it's going to be an easy one because 1 squared is just 1. All right, so that takes care of that section. And then just hit the fast forward button, the right arrow, and that would go to the next section.